Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Let's have some fighting words. So in this video, I want to talk about Jermell Charlo and Terence "Bud" Crawford. So recently, Jermell Charlo had an interview. Well, not recently. It was like a little over a week ago. Had an interview with Brian Custard, and he said some things that at first I thought were great for boxing. At first, I thought were just trash talk, and to build up excitement. And then as I listened to it over, and I thought to myself, I didn't necessarily like. Now, I'm me personally. I don't mind trash talk. Just where I come from, how I grew up, things that I've been through, but also just what the sport is. I mean, you're about to fight a guy. Doesn't matter what he says. No, not really. So by all means, say what you got to say. But as I listened to this interview, I could understand, I've been saying for a while, but I really see the frustration coming from Terence Crawford. Here you have a guy who is really coming into his own. Not really coming. He's been in his own, but he's about to ascend into another plateau of greatness in the ring. However, he's being held back. He's being held back by politics. He's being held back by his promoter. He's being held back by other fighters. He's being held back by other promotions. He's being held back over finances. He's being held back, and now, him trying to take control of his career and wanting to test himself. And that's all this is. It's sport, people. He wants to test himself. And you would think these guys would want to test themselves. He says, listen, if I can't get the fight with either Ugas or Spence, I'm willing to go up to 154. No problem with that. Guys do it all the time. Guys have done it throughout the history of boxing. No problem with that. So Jermell Charlo responds, you got people to fight in your division. Why are you trying to come up here? Now, on the surface, I get that. I understand what he's saying. This is big boy business over here, and you need to handle little guy business down there. Get what he's saying. But then he goes on and adds on to that and says, why don't you take less money and fight Earl Spence? Why don't you shut up and do what you're told? Then he goes on and says that nobody likes Terence Crawford. That's the reason why he has beef with his promoter, Bob Arum. And I'm just like, dude, now you're kind of crossing the line. At first, it was what I consider, fighting words. But now you're saying something that is just, you're hurting. Number one, you're attacking his manhood. And you're putting his career in jeopardy. What do you mean you won't fight him if he moves up? I don't understand that mentality. You're a prize fighter. And you're one of the best in your division. Jermell Charlo is no joke. For him to say that, you need to stay where you're at and, take less money and be quiet, and then called him boy. And it's like, enough is enough. But don't disrespect his manhood. Don't disrespect who he is as a person. I didn't like that. And as I think about it more and more, I like it less and less. And because I like it less and less, I started thinking more and more about what would happen in a fight between Jermell Charlo and Terence "Bud" Crawford. And now, mind you, this is not a breakdown or anything like that. It's just me brainstorming off the top of my head what would happen between the two if they were to match up in a bout at 154 pounds. So when Terence Crawford was at 140 pounds, everybody was like, well, he's too small, he's too skinny to compete at 147 pounds. Well, now we know he's not too small and he's not too skinny, and he continues to show his power and his strength. His strength has been one of the most underrated things continually since he's moved up from 140 pounds. And it started with Jeff Horn. But for me, I no longer look at his strength because what he did with Sean Porter and how easily he manhandled Sean Porter and, kind of set him in his place and was switching positions with him. And I was like, okay, you are strong. You are strong. Now, on top of that, outside of boxing, Terence Crawford's sons are wrestlers. And he's been around wrestling, and he actually wrestled in high school. So these different transitions and positions are nothing new to him. Now, that being said, can Terence Crawford move up to 154 pounds and be effective? Absolutely. I personally believe absolutely he can go up to 154 pounds and be effective. Number one, skills pay the bills. I think he's one of the most intelligent fighters there are, period, regardless of division or weight. I'm just saying intelligence. He's one of the most intelligent fighters there are today. So, with that being said, he could adapt. He could adapt, absolutely. Does it mean he's going to be fighting in a telephone booth, if he goes up to 154 pounds? More than likely not. But with his skill setting, he doesn't have to. With his switch fighting, he doesn't have to. With his different arsenal of weapons when he's in the ring, he doesn't have to. With his footwork, he doesn't have to. Great jab, doesn't have to. Combinations, doesn't have to. He will definitely bring speed up with him as well. So he doesn't necessarily have to fight in a phone booth. However, because of that base in wrestling, he can get himself out of a phone booth. Now, let's look at Jermell Charlo. What do we know about him? We know that he's a knockout artist, and that's basically what he was saying in the interview. I'm a knockout artist, baby. You come up here, you get knocked out. It's possible that's what he does. That's what he's been doing thus far. He's not playing around. And as I said many times, the knockouts are addictive. Could he knock out Terence Crawford? Yes. Terence Crawford has been dropped before. Yes. Terence Crawford has been on some very wobbly and spaghetti-like legs before. Yes, that is true. And is Jermell Charlo the guy who could do it and, get him in that position again? Yes, he's a world champion. Absolutely, he could do it again. I don't doubt he could do it. However, I think Terence Crawford would come up with a pretty good game plan. But not only that, if that game plan doesn't work, he can adjust the game plan on the fly, in the moment. And when you match the two together, there's one thing that Jermell Charlo doesn't do very well. He does not adjust very well. Jermell Charlo has one setting, and he has one goal: kill and destroy. And that setting is go, go, go. Forward, forward, forward. Doesn't know how to fight going backward. The Castano fight proved that. Doesn't necessarily know how to fight boxers that well. Tony Harrison fight showed us that. He's a destroyer. He's a terminator. He's just going to keep going straight, and he's going to keep throwing bombs. Jermell Charlo has a great jab. Jermell Charlo has great body shots when he throws them. He hardly ever throws them in bunches as well, which would probably, work in the, not probably, definitely works in the favor of Terence Crawford. When I look at this, honestly, I do see somebody who's very beatable for somebody with the intellect of Terence Crawford, who understands foot positioning, and a whole lot of times, Jermell Charlo oversteps himself because he's loading up so much on those punches, he oversteps himself. And if you look at the fights with Tony Harrison caught him a lot of times just simply because he overstepped himself. And Tony Harrison said it in the press conference. He's like, he's not a great boxer. He hits hard, but he's not a great boxer. He's like, I've seen guys like him all my life in the gym, and they overstep themselves. And, when you look at that, especially the first fight with Tony Harrison, I personally believe Jermell Charlo won that first fight, to be honest with you. But you still see the frustration that Tony Harrison gave Jermell Charlo just simply because of his footwork, simply because Tony Harrison could fight backing up, simply because Tony Harrison used the whole ring, and simply because Tony Harrison would give different looks. Now, when you think about Terence Crawford, he's going to do all those things, but also throw in wrestling and also throw in switch fighting. It's difficult to say, especially the tear that Jermell Charlo has been on as of lately. But it also shows in his fight with Castano, when you put him against the ring, he doesn't necessarily know what to do. And if you wrestle him, he'll basically sit still. So he'll kind of just weather the storm. Terence Crawford could more than easily probably manhandle Jermell Charlo if Charlo got too close. And, you know, at least get himself in a good enough position to where he can get out of there. He's probably going to throw combinations, in which case Charlo is more of a straight line puncher. You know, everything is straight, because he's constantly moving forward at a fast pace. Which also another thing would be interesting between the two fighters would be the pace of the fight. How is this pace going to be? Charlo is fast. Everything is fast. Everything's 100%. Everything's 100 miles an hour. And then you have Terence Crawford, who's more like on cruise control. Until you're hurt, everything is cruise control. And it's on cruise control so that he can see everything perfectly. He can see what's coming at him. He can assess what he needs to do or what he needs to fine, tweak, and adjust here and there. You know, in the traps that he needs to set. While Charlo is live hard and die fast. You know, that's just kind of how he is. So the pace would be interesting. I think Terence Crawford very early would have to adjust to that pace, and I think it would be a very uncomfortable, probably 3, possibly even 4 rounds. But I think once he adjusts to the pace, and I think once he gets his hands on Charlo and kind of shows him, hey, like, and I mean physically, aggressively grab him and like, hey, we're going to slow this down. You know, we're going to slow this down. And also keep that distance. I think it's going to be a lot harder for him to keep distance because he has a bigger man and a knockout artist at that, pressing him. Because Charlo is a pressure fighter. But, like I said, that's where that switch fighting comes in. That's where that comes in. That's where the wrestling comes in. And it's just to reset everything and then control the bigger guy. I fancy the chances of Terence Crawford against Jermell Charlo, actually. I do. I'm not saying it would be a blowout, and I am definitely saying that, you know, if it's early, I would definitely give it to Charlo. But if it goes to distance, you know, it could very well be Terence Crawford. I think... you know, it's tough. It's tough. I believe it. I'll say it like this. Terence Crawford definitely has all the attributes and all the abilities and the skill setting and mindset and the physicality to handle Jermell Charlo, to contain Jermell Charlo. But on the flip hand side, Jermell Charlo has the power, the aggression, and the overall want to win to finish Terence Crawford. Jermell Charlo tasted defeat before, and it broke him down to tears. That's something he does not want to taste again, and he doesn't want to have that feeling again. And it would be even more embarrassing if a smaller guy from 140 makes his way up to 154 and makes you cry all over again. So overall, it's tough to say. Mainly because of the wrestling and the switch fighting, I would give Terence Crawford a strong, possible he could win the fight. He could win the fight. Jermell Charlo has an amazing chin though, so it's tough because he's gonna have to be perfect for 12 rounds. Jermell Charlo has a durable chin. Tony Harrison can crack. Castano can crack. And he stayed there. He ate some shots, and he stayed there. So, I don't know if Terence Crawford can hit as hard as them. One more thing I'll say before I let this video go is the overall instinct of Terence Crawford. If you make one mistake, if you go 1 inch out, like maybe, you know, like overstepping yourself or something like that, he'll see it, and he'll make you pay for it. He'll see it and make you pay for it. You can ask Sean Porter about that. He'll make you pay for it. And that's what you need to be careful with. So can he beat Jermell Charlo, I definitely think he can. I think he would have to be on his double A game to beat Jermell Charlo. But it is very plausible, very likely, very possible overall that he could beat Jermell Charlo. That is what I'm saying. But you tell me what your thoughts. You drop your comments down below. I want to hear what you think. Do you think Jermell Charlo will win if he were to go against Terence Bud Crawford? Or do you think Bud would win? Drop your comments down below. I want to hear what you have to say. As always, please like, please share, and please subscribe to my channel.